Out of interest, who's their first Tech Wednesday today? Hands up. Oh, cool. Good to see you all. So you should all have stars on your little stickers if you're new. Well, I'll explain that in a little bit. For those of you who have been before, you might notice that we have rebranded Tech Wednesday. So we hope you like it. It was long due, a rebrand, and we're basically trying to move it more to be kind of community-focused, campus-wide, as opposed to just an E4F thing. I'm Naomi Watts, and I run E4F, which is Entrepreneurs for the Future, which is the tech startup incubator here on campus, which I'll talk to you about in a little bit. So we have this meetup every month, every third Wednesday of the month, and for Birmingham's technological and entrepreneurial community, which is you. You can, if you're going to tweet, use hashtag TechWeds. Give yourself a little shout out on our live Twitter for just there. So you've all got your stickers, you've all got your colours. This is we've just found that this really helps with the networking, so you can easily speak to the right people. Speak to people with stars on, because welcoming them into the community is always great, and also you definitely know you've not spoken to them before. So what does Innovation Birmingham campus do? So really, we have three main things plus the support. So we've got office suites, so we've got 3 buildings that you can rent offices from us, and we are at nearly full capacity with tech businesses. Meeting and conference facilities, ta-da! You're sitting in one of them. And co-working opportunities, so that's where our programs come in. So I've explained E4F briefly. Serendip, Serendip is for our kind of later stage growth companies who are looking to get into market. And we've got partners with all these companies here who actually are based here as well. So you get to work alongside them. They'll help you with your route to market. You help them with their innovation needs. It's a really, really good program. It's 6 months of free space here, and you can apply through our website. We've also got Innovation Engine, and this works. These are all the partners for Innovation Engine, and if you want to know any more, come and speak to me afterwards, because it's quite complicated to explain right now. But it's really, really good, especially if you're kind of in the academic side. We work with all the universities. But I'm going to talk to you tonight because we're doing an E4F special to kick off the year. This is the official kind of last year of E4F. Our funding runs out at the end of the year. Doesn't mean it's going to stop. It might change, might stay the same. We're not sure yet. So I just wanted to have a bit of a look back at what E4F has done over the years. And we're going to hear from some alumni today about how they've grown their business here. We're still taking applications. We've just had a new cohort start. Some of them are here tonight, so welcome. And we've got another cohort starting in March. And we've just today launched a kind of I think it's 20 questions to see if you think like an entrepreneur or not. So take a picture of that or write down the website. You can do a little quick quiz and see if what kind of skill sets you've got. And then you can they'll give you a nice little report. Then you can use that to see, is this something that I can be doing? These are the kind of things that you can get on E4F. So it's a 9-month program. You get to use the space here, co-working alongside the other startups. You get a mentor as well who will be speaking with you this evening. We have lots of events. You get to meet with accountants. You get to meet with lawyers. You get to meet with salespeople. And all that kind of stuff. And I'm more than happy to talk to anybody more about this afterwards as well. Just quickly, I'm just going to say that this year, anybody who's on E4F is also going to be entered into a competition called Entrepreneur of 2018. And that winner, which will be announced towards the end of the year, is going to get a whole load of benefits that we're going to kind of start rolling out over the next couple of months. So if you're interested in what that's about, again, talk to me, register your interest in it, and we can take you through the application process of that. It's going to be massive PR around it. Get your business out there, get your name out there, and we can help you that way. we also are looking for referrals. So if you meet somebody, either tonight or at any other networking event or through your job, and you think, that's a really great idea, you should get into business, or if they're looking for help, if you refer them to E4F and they tell us that you did, we'll give you some benefits as well. We'll give you some marketing, we'll get you partnered up on the website. So there's an incentive there. Again, speak to me about it. Now, just looking around the room for John Cook, who's not here. So, in which case, let's move on to the main part of the evening. So we've got somebody who was on our very first E4F cohort, who is still running a very successful business now here on campus, and that is Guy McEvoy from Guykat.
Thank you very much. Oh, I've got a button. Okay, so I've been asked to come and talk to you a bit about our journey from E4F to where we are today. And the way I thought, I've only got 5-10 minutes, so I'll be quite succinct, but the way I thought I would do it, why is this not changing? Hey, yep, okay, so, it's quite difficult. I have to lean back to read my own. I'm going to tell you a little bit, very quickly, what we do. Then I'm going to tell you who we do it for. Then I'm going to tell you how we found the last year, so what our outlook is. And then I'll tell you how we got here, and the kind of the bit about how E4F helped us get where we are is probably the most interesting bit for the people here, so that's probably where I'll dwell. I'm also going to talk about why we're still actually based in the building next door at Faraday Wharf, because I think the experience of being based here has been part of our success story. And very quickly, I'll talk about what's next. So, who are we? Guykat do two things. We take training that used to be done in the classroom and we put it online. And we only do business to business. And we like to think what we make's awesome and different. And if you've ever done e-learning and gone, we like to change people's perception. So that's one thing. The other thing we do is if you've got e-learning content and you need to serve it to people, there's a thing called a learning management system that sits behind that. We have a software as a service offering that we sell to big organizations that also do that. From one of our dirty little secrets is how small we are, because we actually work for some of the biggest brands in the world. Over last year, our training was deployed in over 60 countries, and we trained more than 10,000 professionals. It's an explosive time to be in my business. We actually doubled our turnover last year, and we went through the magic £1 million mark, which was fantastic. Thank you. And that's really nice, because we're a quite high margin business, which means basically we've built a £500,000 war chest to invest in the growth of the business. So I don't take the money out of the business. I'm all about organic growth, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But we're that gives us a springboard to keep on growing, keep on creating jobs, and keep on doing awesome work. So how did we get to there? Well, we were founded in 2009, and I messed around for a while, and then I found out about E4F. I happened to be Birmingham based. I'd not long been made redundant. I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. And at the time, the E4F program was actually not as well formed as it is now. So the kind of things that were on offer were the office space. But the biggest benefit probably at the time, there wasn't the mentoring and the structured programs that there are now, but the biggest benefits at the time were the sense of community. When you start a business, it's one of the loneliest things you'll ever do. You are not born knowing how to do a VAT return. You are not born knowing how to find finance. You're not born knowing, when bankers are ripping you off, etc., etc. So having a sense of community, to be around people who are going through the same things and you can have an honest chat with, that was really important to giving me the confidence to begin to grow what we started to build. My plan actually was never, you meet a lot of people who want to be unicorns, they want to be the next Google. I've always been quite happy. Look, we're a 12-people business. We're profitable. We've been profitable every year. I'm happy with that, and I'm happy to keep growing with that. A bit of advice I would have for people who go through the program is, of course, there's pressure to look at scaling up and being one of those next big unicorns, but you'll know in your soul what you're shooting for. Set your own ambitions, aim for that, and if you're successful, brilliant. But for me, organic growth was right for me. I was passionate, I didn't want to work for anyone else, so we've grown a little bit slower because I've not been willing to take equity funding from anybody else. That's a very personal thing. It absolutely will not be right for a lot of people. I'm quite lucky. I had some money behind me to see me through the first stage, but just be aware that's an option, if that's right for you. If it's not right for you, make sure you get great advice, and I know that E4F have people to make sure you steer down to the good guys, not the bad guys, in the way that finance can be presented. So that's a tip for you. We're what, 6, 7 years in? Why am I still based here? I love this place. I love that we're so close. Well, Birmingham is actually a cheap place to set up compared with London. We are very well located for access to a graduate workforce. There's all sorts of stuff going on that make it great to set up a business. So we made very good use, for instance, of Graduate Advantage in the first few years, which is an organisation that helps you bring graduates in, which means you get quite a enthusiastic workforce at quite good value. And a lot of those people, you know, we've been able to keep on years later and have turned into, you know, really good professional jobs for them. So it's been a win for them, and it's been a win for us, because it was a less risky way to make HR investments to bring people in that way. Also, just there's an advantage to being surrounded by other companies that are ambitious, technology, fast-growing, and there's a little bit of, sometimes when you've got a low day, you can walk into the cafe and you've got someone else who's, you know, doing well, and you can kind of absorb enthusiasm by osmosis in other entrepreneurs' presence. So there's definitely something about that as well. It's a great community. Every year they come to me and say, you know, are you going to renew for another year? I look at what I'm paying per square foot and think, no, I'm going to go to Digbeth. And then I stop and think about all the benefits I do get. The fact we're still here, I think, says what a great job they do. So we're very happy to still be based in Faraday Wharf. What's next for us? We're at a really interesting point. Like I say, we've gone into the revenue phase. We're profitable. I need to decide whether I do now want to shoot up and go from the 12 people to the 50 people to the 100 people, or whether actually just for lifestyle reasons, I'm happy to be where we are. What I am, however we do it, my drive for this year is about scaling safely. I'm quite a cautious guy, and that's, you know, very much on my radar this year. But the big thing for us as well, a lot of our business has always been project-based. So you're only as good as your last job. It only lasts as long as you know, the end deliverable was, and then you've got to go out and find new work. So we're looking strategically to shift to a more service-based model. So getting contracts that you know, are people using our services for fixed lengths of time rather than fixed objectives, and turning that into recurring revenue, which I think will give us a more solid base to move forward. So I was asked to just give a background to Guykat about who we are and how we got to where we are. It's a pleasure to come and talk to E4F, because they were a part of our success story, and I wouldn't be standing here sort of 6 years later without the little nudge that we got from them at the start. I think that's me. I might have one slide. No, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Guy. That was great. I love hearing your journey and kind of keep going with you with that. Have we got any questions for Guy at all? Yep. Can we just wait for the microphone, just so everybody can hear you, even if you think you've got a loud voice? It's quite difficult to project around. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just wondering that there are a lot of service-based learning management solutions nowadays, like pluralsight.com. They are basically for vast consumer market. But how are you, for example, thinking to compete with them in the near term and in the long term?
Yeah, so we're very clear. There's a lot of our competitors are very confused. So people say they're in learning space and they don't know whether they're shooting for education. They don't know whether they're shooting for business to business. We're very clear. We're aiming for, you know, FTSE 100 size companies that everything we do is in their language. We're not, and everything we do is very bespoke as well. So if we just made e-learning that was how to do Microsoft Word, frankly, you can go on YouTube and you are competing with stuff that's free. If we're doing what is Cadbury or Mondelez's sales model, that's very bespoke to them, and you know they'll come to us, and it's once you get in with a client like that, they start sharing IP with you. You become a trusted partner, and it's just word of mouth after that. People know you can play in that league, and they keep coming back to you. And ours is quite an immature market, and a lot of the people are frankly chancers that are in it. So when people find someone they can trust, you've got a really good platform to grow.
Thank you, great question. Any more? Okay, thanks Guy, thanks a lot. Yeah, why not? You did have a couple more slides, so I'll let you read that. So next up we've got Joe Kibbler, who was so E4F ran for about 5 years on the program that Guy was on, and then the funding stopped for a little bit, and then we relaunched it 3 years, something like that. And Joe was the first cohort on that. So we've got like someone who's a bit more recent, where E4F had progressed to a little bit more like what it is today. He's going to talk to us about his journey. Thanks, Joe.
Evening, everyone. Thanks, Naomi. So yeah, as Naomi just stated, so my name is Joe Kibbler. I'm the founder of IcarusParts.com. I started on E4F in June 2016. So I'll give you a very quick background as to what the business does, and I'll explain my journey through E4F and where I am now. So Icarus Parts is a new business model selling car parts online. So for those of you in the room who own a car, we're targeting you. So essentially the way we work is you put in your registration number on our platform, you decide what kind of work you need doing. So let's say you need new front brake pads. You then choose a brand based on your budget, so you're in control over how much you want to spend as a customer. We then integrate with a network of garages across the country who fit those parts for you. We pre-agree all the labor costs, so you know exactly how much you're spending on your repairs, and you book in with the garage as well. Means car drivers have got complete transparency in their car repairs as opposed to relying on a garage. So since being on E4F, so as I mentioned, I started on it in June 2016, 9-month program. I'd say the main benefits of the program for me were it was great being in a shared office with like-minded people. Before that, I would work on the business on a weekend, on evenings after work, and it was a bit lonely. You can't share ideas with people. So I did force myself to go into the office every single day, and just, even if there wasn't much going on, just build my reputation there and get to know people in the office. You get mentors on the program. So the mentors are great. While you'll be allocated one, you can ask the others for ideas and get advice from them as well, so you don't just have to stick with the one. From memory, when I was on it, there was a few events as well. I don't know if Naomi's still doing the same kind of things this year with accountancies and law firms. So the law firm we started to work with, I was introduced through in E4F. Great for an early stage company. Costs were very reasonable, so for us it helps as an early stage business. I would say anyone who wants to get onto the program to get the most out of it, if you do get onto it, really make the effort to turn up, make the effort to engage with people in the office, make the effort to attend networking events, because that's how you will learn, you'll get feedback and just get ideas for your business. So when I first started pitching, I would share my pitch with people who already raised investment. So already I'm getting advice from people who I know have been through the process. That same principle applies for people who've also raised investment if they want to do recommendations for you and introductions. So again, a few people who are in the office with me did introductions for me to their existing investors. So yeah, really beneficial for me. So I'll describe very briefly what we do as a business. Anyone got any questions on how that will work as a business, what we do? If not, that means I've done it straightforward, which is great. Yeah. Yeah, the garage is all peer reviewed by customers. So once you've been into a garage, we invite you to leave that review for the garage, give feedback to the garage. they haven't done a good enough job, come back to us. We will liaise with them to make sure we find a solution. But one thing we do before we accept any garage onto the platform, we vet them. So we look at their quality levels. We'll look at, for example, their Google reviews. We'll look at their qualifications, look at their insurance. So we don't just accept any garage onto the platform because, let's face it, we don't want someone to fit a set of brake pads incorrectly. So we only accept good garages onto the platform. Yeah? Yeah? So, so liability cover, how expensive our liability cover. So as a legal entity, we operate as an agent. So one thing I've described to you how the business works for a customer, but it's essentially the business model is B2B2C. So we enable manufacturers to sell direct to the end customer, which they've never done before. We never buy and hold stock, so think of us as Deliveroo for car parts. So because we never buy and hold stock, our liability is limited. The garages fit the parts, customers are contracting with the garage for that, and the manufacturers own those parts up to sell to the customer. We merely act as the agent in between.
So in terms of getting all that legal structure set up, how was that experience?
Being honest, when I first had the idea, I had no idea about it because I knew what I wanted to do in terms of the business, but I didn't know about that legal structure. Again, the firm who I started to work with developed that as a package. So essentially I needed contracts with the suppliers, I needed T's and C's with the garage, I need website T's and C's, and I need customer terms and conditions as well, just as a legal framework to make the business work. It's fair they did that, all fixed fee agreements, so I knew exactly what I was spending. I was involved with them in the round of revisions, so I knew it was a bespoke document tailored to me, so it wasn't just something they downloaded from the internet. But it was really valuable, because otherwise it's...
So was that connection through...
Through Innovation Birmingham, yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'm allowed to pitch names, but it was Brown Jacobson, and Naomi can do the introductions, and very, very good, very good. Any other questions?
What is your revenue stream? How do you generate revenue from this platform, please?
So at the moment, we generate revenue from the parts, and because in this market there is, it's a very traditional structure. So you have big distributors, you have big manufacturers, you have garages. Because we work direct with manufacturers, we charge them a commission on each part sold. So that's our main revenue stream.
Thank you.
And we're live. That's the thing to say, yeah.
How would this work if I had a vehicle, or would it work if I had a vehicle and I didn't know what part it needed? I just knew it's broken, it's flashing an error code at me.
You're completely right. So that's our next feature development is diagnosis, because you're completely right. At the moment, our customers know what they need doing, so they might have a service or MOT. Ultimately, if your error warning lights come on your car, you need it to be diagnosed. One thing we're working to do at the moment is work with our network of garages and say to customers, okay, we will diagnose your car for £20. So you take it into any one of our network garages, based on for your location, you pay a fixed amount, and then they will tell you what's wrong with their car. And then potentially, if you then get the work done through us, we might give you another discount off the parts you need.
Cool.
Huh? What's mine? Sorry, website name is icarusparts.com. Come find me after, I can give you a card. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Joe was the most persistent person I've ever come across with when applying to E4F, because we didn't have funding when he first applied, so I was like, no, he's phoned me every single day. And so it's great to see that he's now alive and he's really making it work and he's still on campus. That's really, really great. Finally, we've got Lee, who is currently on the programme. So he joined us 4 months ago. Yeah. Oh, November. So yeah, just before Christmas. So he's going to give us what he's experienced just in the last couple of months. So yeah, over to you, Lee.
Thank you, Noah. "12 years ago, I was made redundant, and I thought, right, I'm going to set the world on fire and sell my own software. 11 years later, I didn't set the world on fire. I was self-employed. I was what Cliff calls the walking dead, and I was just basically as good as my last development. Last year, I decided to reinvent myself, as B1 Connect and created some predictive maintenance software for emergency service vehicles. I had a good customer, Devon and Cornwall Police, but the thing is, at heart I'm a developer, and I just still lacked the direction and strategy. And then last November I joined E4F, and then since then I've gained direction and I've gained strategy. I now have a business mentor, John Cook. John has a wealth of knowledge, and excuse me, with John's help I now have a business and financial plan. I have an advisory board, and I'm making myself investment ready. Now, a few months ago, these terms were just completely alien to me. They wouldn't have come to me at all. John also has an army of LinkedIn connections, and as a result, I have some very good contacts as well. So, thank you, John. I've also had mentoring from Andy. Last week, Naomi told me I had a session booked with Andy, and after having a near-death experience, I went and saw him. Andy gave me some sales advice that I had the best sales advice in the space of 1 hour, more relevant sales advice for me than I had done in the previous 12 years. He basically gave me a framework and a process which would help me sell the solution. It helps me price the service correctly, and it also gives me the idea that the functionality should be customer driven and not what I should think, and also not tech driven. So again, thank you, Andy, for that. So it sounds like an acceptance speech, doesn't it? Yeah, me too. I just want to talk about the networking opportunities here, because there's just a wide diversity of professions in the buildings. You're able to bounce ideas off sort of fellow developers, civil engineers, business coaches, just a whole host of people. And after working for 12 years on my own, this is a real breath of fresh air. You know, I feel like I'm part of a community. It feels like I've got a place to work as opposed to just being self-employed again. And the atmosphere here, it's just, because as Joe said, we like-minded people, it's very cultivating for great ideas and creativity. Yeah, and this week I've been invited to join an advisory board myself, so you know, that's a good thing for me. Just generally speaking, everybody's really friendly. I've been here just 2 months. I made some good friends, and it's a pleasure to come here every day. Sort of going forward, with the help of E4F, I'm able to add value to my company. I'm now able to better speak to my customers. I know who to target, and I'm making myself investor ready. And with the help of E4F, I'm moving from just being a developer, hopefully, into being an entrepreneur. And finally, just advice for the new cohort. I'll just say come in as often as you can. Network as much as possible. Speak to as many people as possible. Make friends and take in all the advice that's given. And finally, my acceptance speech, thanks to Naomi and Abdul for making everything happen. It's been great. So, thanks very much.
That's lovely, isn't it? Got any questions for Lee just before you sat down already? You can chat to him after. Okay, yeah, we'll just have one. Is that right?
Be easier, mate.
So the advisory board, what sort of advice do you get from that? What's it involved?
Well, it's people who's in the industry, so it's people in the fleet industry, and I'm getting advice of where to pitch the product, the sort of pricing points. I'm getting advice from them, sort of trade events, where to go, just and using their contacts.
Nice.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Thanks. John, do you want to do that one slide you said you wanted to do? Yeah? So this is John Cook. He's one of the mentors that has just been praised by Lee there. He's just going to talk to us about, let's go back through those.
Hi, good evening everyone. Oh, cool. Sorry I'm a little late. I've just come from the pitch coaching for this event. In a few weeks' time, we've got a cohort which is sponsored with PwC on the Scale program, presenting their businesses in here. It's an open event. And more importantly than these guys presenting, there's going to be a lot of PwC people here, their corporate clients, and a lot of investors in the space as well. So it's a fantastic networking opportunity, and I recommend you register for it. You're going to see some good presentations. John at the back there from Employ, we've been locked in a room today going through presentations and stuff. So 2 of our community are part of the 9 for the Scale program. But just wanted to highlight that. It's a great opportunity to network. Thanks.
Thank you. Let's just go back to that. So, I would like to invite John back, Alistair and Andy. These are our 3 mentors, and if you come in, take a seat, lads. And David Hardman, CEO of Innovation Birmingham, and Cliff Dennett, Business Development Manager of Innovation Birmingham. These 5 guys, along with myself and Abdul, are the ones that really are the team of E4F. These are the people that you'll be speaking to and getting the advice from. So we thought it would be great to put them on the spot instead of them putting us on the spot for once. And we're going to have a little chat with them. I'm going to ask them a few questions and then we'll open it to the floor. So firstly, can we check that your microphone is switched on, please? Cliff. And if you could just give us a real quick 1 line, who you are, what you do, that'd be great. David.
Okay, so I'm CEO of Innovation Birmingham. Basically run a business that is an SME that supports startups and SMEs. That'll do.
My name is Andy Honess. You heard a lot about me already from Lee. Thanks, Lee. Thanks so much. I'm a business angel and an advisor to the software industry. My background is enterprise software, primarily B2B, but I dip into the consumer side. I work for about 11 different incubator accelerators, some in London and Innovation Birmingham, obviously, which is the most important one of all. And I've been working here for 4 years, and I probably get to see about 200 companies a year. So I've invested in 6, sold 1, just about hopefully invest in another one. And love the startup scene and looking forward to your questions in a bit.
My name is Alistair Fox. I was an engineer for 10 years and worked in sales and marketing for about 25 years with big companies, small companies, did a recovery in a small company and worked with a startup for about 4 years in the Netherlands. And I've been a mentor on the program for a long time, probably about 3 or 4 years. I work with loads of different companies, which is really interesting, lots of variety, lots of people from different backgrounds, which is very enjoyable.
I'm John Cook. I'm very much a software person, started at IBM, went to Microsoft for about 8 years, and then spun a company out of there, with their blessing, I hasten to add, and set it up here, and then went to the States for a couple of years and set up a subsidiary over there. Went for a failed sale, went for a sale, and then with all that experience, joined a coaching organization, and now most of my life is spent mentoring startups like yourselves, so both here and over at the university across town, so that's me.
Oh, thank you very much. My name's Cliff and I like microphones. So yeah, I'm Cliff Dennett, Head of Business Development here, so supporting David, helping the campus grow and be the best sort of centre for technology development that it can be. My background's mostly in corporate, large-scale IT companies like EDS, AT&T, Orange, before France Telecom bought it and ruined it. But then probably more relevant for this audience, had my own technology startup, which I banged my head against the wall with for about 6 years. Spoiler alert, most of you in the audience probably know it failed, but we learned an awful lot along the way about raising money and doing B2B deals and building large-scale, scalable apps. So.
Cool, thanks guys. So I'm going to start. We've talked a lot about E4F. We've heard from people who've been on the programme. Is there anybody in the room here that's thinking about applying to E4F? What do they really need to be thinking about in order to, you know, how serious they are if they're applying? What do they need to be thinking about? Cliff?
Benefit of hanging on to the mic. So I would say, so I was one of the early ones through E4F as well. And the thing I think that really, really separates the ones who get a lot from the program who don't is commitment. It's pretty straightforward, it's pretty simple. The more you're here, the more you're talking to these guys, me, David, whoever else, Abdul, Naomi, etc., the more you're talking to them, the more you're engaging, the more physically present you are here, the better, the much more you get out of it. So it's one of the things we kind of look for at interview is how committed can you be. We don't expect you to be here every day, of course, that's not the point, but engage. Attend the events like this kind of thing. So that's kind of one of the big things I look for, and the success factor, if you like, is commitment.
Yeah, thank you.
For me, it's understanding who your customer is and actually going out, living life as a customer, in their shoes, seeing what their pain points are and how you align to that, and really understand that, and then work out how many of those people are out there, and have you got a viable business off the back of that, and then bring it all together with your knowledge and passion. That's what we want to see.
Any more to add? Of course.
I think I would reiterate that commitment and preparation is important. So I would, I'm a big fan of, obviously I'm the kind of the sales guy here, so we have quite a number of people that come in that haven't really validated their proposition with customers, so we'd much prefer you obviously to come up and into E4F when you've actually realized there's a market there. So we still have people who haven't done that, and it's shocking, really. This is about a life choice and hopefully a dream choice for you guys. So make sure you spend the time with customers and make sure there's a real business case there. And the other thing is really about planning. You've got to, you may not have the perfect business plan, but you've got to have some kind of sense for where you're going to, what your sequence of events is to getting a product ready, getting it financed, getting a business plan together. You've got to have the bare bones of that before you come in, and that's very important because it gives you some idea of timing. And this is, you know, this isn't just a playground. This is, you need some urgency. Your biggest competitive advantage is agility and speed. So this isn't here just for a holiday camp. You've got an opportunity here to make yourself either have a lifestyle business or find yourself on a beach somewhere at some point in your life. So be serious about the timescales and about what resources and actions you need to take to get going, and be massively committed to stay on track with that plan.
Thank you.
One of the things that an entrepreneur, the successful entrepreneurs really get is they understand from the beginning what they know and what they don't know. And they accept that there's stuff that they don't know, and they've got to find out about that to make it work. So one of the things certainly that I would look for in any startup coming onto the incubation program is that the founders are willing to listen. Because to be honest, if you think you can do it on your own, great, go and do it. But the reality is, we've already said, it's a lonely life. It is actually much better to do it in a community environment. But these guys have got years of experience. Listening to them will help you ensure that you're up in the gaps. So an audit, almost to start with, a sort of an audit of what you think you do know, what you don't know, and those things that you don't know that are critical to your business going forward, you need to seek help and ask, and that's what we're here to do.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So Andy said you helped about 200 startups over a space of a year, and I know it's quite similar to the others as well. To the mentors then, what do you think is what is the most common mistake that you see startups do that either leads to failure or would lead to slow growth, anything like that? Alistair?
By far the most common is people who decide not to go into business which they know about, but to find another market which they know nothing about. So the ones that succeed are definitely the people who start from knowing their business. So we've got some people just started who run a taxi business, and they're doing a taxi app, which seems very appropriate. We've had people involved in music, games, who are musicians. So if you start with the stuff you know and build out from that, that's much more likely to be successful. And if you can then build a sort of group of people around you, either friends or people who actually want to join up as founders, that's the second thing. Doing it on your own, there's quite a few people here who've done it on their own, but it's extremely difficult. And trying to do a whole cohort, a whole list of jobs on your own is quite soul destroying. So if you can find a pair of people, one of which has got technical savvy or can solve the problems, and somebody else can go and sell it, that's really good. Often we get people who want one thing or the other, and you need somebody else to balance that out.
From my perspective, the most common reason why startups fail is because they don't know how to sell or don't sell. So more often than not, most people get to this point with an idea that they've and has some kind of validation, market validation to it, but they actually then expect it just to fall off the shelves and their friends to buy it, and they're not really going to think about how they're going to market it and sell it. And it is by far the most common reason why startups will fall into the chasm and fall by the wayside. So, and a big part of that, of course, is the ability to listen, because sometimes you just need to get somebody who knows how these things work, that it's suddenly like Lee's got here, that suddenly the triggers, you know, it's a logical thing, you just need someone to tell you, and then you're off again. So that's the most common reason, and hopefully we will help to make sure you don't trip up on that one.
Yeah, no, mine's sort of similar. It's especially for the guys with the techie backgrounds. It's very easy to sit in the office building systems, you know, coding, and not getting out there and talking to potential customers, potential partners. And the people that are successful are the ones that actually split their time, make sure that they're out and about, that they are engaging with partners, with customers, they're understanding the needs as well as building the product, and they don't just bury themselves in the code.
Cool, thank you, that's great. I'm quite interested in this question myself. What does, we say you get one-to-one mentoring on the program, what does that in reality look like? How involved are you in the businesses? Do you just say, give them homework, or is it like, if you just kind of explain, you probably all do it quite differently, I imagine, knowing your personalities. But if you could kind of give us a bit of a insight into how those mentoring sessions go.
Well, in terms of relationship, then I count many of the companies that come through as friends now. So, you know, we've been out drinking, haven't we, Joe? So yeah, the social scene is very important, and that's why the community is so attractive to work in. So that's the first thing. I think in terms of this, and hopefully I might be getting close to investing some into the companies, which is good. But I think in terms of the sessions, and you know, we try and between the three
Stooges.
Three
That's the word you're looking for.
I had mice, kings, everything, but nothing fitted. So three stooges is fine. Is that we try and basically, depending on where you are on your evolution to becoming multimillionaires, try and work out what is it you need based on where you are. And we've only got 9 months of your time here. Obviously, hopefully we expect you to progress into other parts of the centre here. But as far as E4F goes, we've got 9 months to make a difference. So we have a view of kind of the milestones and the actions and the deliverables that you need to do to get to a point where you've got a product that you can take to customers and validate it with, whether you can build a business plan that's going to be validated by people who invest in an investment pitch book that's ready to will help you raise money. And so the key thing with the sessions is that we have a good idea where you are on that journey, and that you're honest and open, and you know, bad news early is good news, so the more honest you are with us, the better. And that we tackle all the primary challenges, so you are prepared to articulate what the challenges are, and then we have a capacity then of knowing how to help. So I think it's part of the relationship, but it's about planning and about being clinical and being disciplined about how you're executing on that plan, and the sessions are better when that relationship is built around a very rigorous plan.
Yeah, I think it's all about getting the right relationship. I think when I first started mentoring here, I tended to do it as a fairly hands-off, you know, if you've got a question, come and ask me. And then you realise that quite a few people actually need or want some pushing. And want some, if they're working on their own, they need some milestones. They need to be accountable at least to themselves, and we can help them with that. The other thing is actually to aim to solve the difficult problems first. As John was suggesting, if you're good at tech or you're good at something else or good at business, you probably spend all your time thinking about that bit rather than the bit that you can't do. You know, typically, selling and going and meeting customers is really hard work, so people don't do it. So I think our role really is to make sure you've got a balanced approach to the business. Quite a few people I meet with, they develop apps. You say, well, an app is not a business. You know, an app is purely a piece of software, and you may or may not be able to build a business around it. So it's that sort of, you know, thing about how do you get the right people, how do you meet the right investors, what do investors want, that sort of thing. I think that's the most important thing, and it's up to you to decide what you want the mentor to do. As I say, if we can be a bit of a confidant, we can review stuff, or we can help to push you. It's your business. We're not part of the executive team, but beyond that, we can do just about everything that you'd like us to do. I've spent evenings reviewing business plans sometimes, and you're getting that all for free. So it's, you know, it's up to you to make the most of it.
Yeah, I don't have any sort of set process. It really is tailored to the individual needs of the people there. Like you say, we're there to spot the gaps, spot where there are issues, challenge people in their thinking, make sure they're confident about how they present. As Lee alluded to when you were talking, I always try and make at least a handful of introductions from the network, which is part of the encouraging people to get out and get engaging with potential partners and customers. I have gone as far as actually joining people on pitches. I can't do that all the time, but I have done that where it's like a critical one. And certainly things like sales pitch practice, investment pitch practice, refining all of that, we're there for that as well. So
That's great. So pretty bespoke then. It's, you kind of tailor it as per the needs of the companies. It's brilliant. So it's 2018. Yes, it really is, people. It really is 2018. 2008 was 10 years ago. Jeez. And as we know, technology is like going probably faster than humans are really at the moment in regards to growth. So probably David, this one could come to you. Is 2018 a good time to start a tech business? Are we too late? Are we too early? What's the current climate for entrepreneurialism currently in this year?
I don't think it's never a time, never the wrong time to start a business if you've got a good idea. That good idea needs to have a market that's ready for it, and you need to have the drive to do that. Tech will keep moving. It's moving faster and faster. I think actually the important bit is being ready to move fast, because this is not a game. You can sit in a coffee shop and you can talk about it, and there are, I fear, and I'll say in London, lots of coffee shops where people are talking about being entrepreneurs. They're the wantrepreneurs. That's not what we need to do here. What we need is businesses. Our job is about helping you guys get going. But from Innovation Birmingham's point of view, we're taking you on a journey. And from our point of view, the important bit at the end of that journey is that you are making money, you're employing people, you're creating jobs for this city. So if you take the incubation environment, and I'm not sure the hospital analogy is great, but I use it, so I'm going to. What we've been talking about so far is intensive care, because you get all the support you possibly need to live. And we hope that will be successful. Of course, in intensive care, sometimes it doesn't quite work. But actually, the majority of businesses that have come through the program have gone on and survived. I'm not saying they've all grown to massive companies, but most of them have survived. Once you've left that intensive care, you go into a sort of a general ward, where you are in a building like this around a lot of people, and you're still getting advice and introductions that we can make. And then you can move on to the companies like Guykat and a number of the other companies that are now raising, and Guykat's just doing a good job in raising money through doing business. We've also, in the last 3 months of last year, 3 companies raised £10 million. Those companies have grown. They're getting benefit being part of this community. And that's the important aspect. So it's not just a start and leave you to it. There's a process, and at all elements we look to build. It's free to start with, but then we need pricing points that allow you to stay here, keep going, with hot desking environments, and then into smaller offices, larger offices. Grow, fine, get bigger offices. If for some reason it doesn't quite work out, you need to shrink back, we do that as well. We let the businesses shrink back down into smaller space, and then hopefully they grow again. So we're there on this journey. So 2018, 2019, 2020, there will be new technologies coming out, but it's always the right time to set up a new business.
Cool, thank you.
I think, just to reiterate, I think the first one is, why would you wait? Most of you are all probably in employment now, and very good and very well qualified. Lots of people are scared about moving. What's the worst that can happen? You just go back to where you were. So, and if you miss this opportunity, what a miss that will be if you never took it, and you always feel bad. So I think there's no time like the present. If you scratch a bit deeper and you think about, as David said, the expansion of technology industry is just, even for people who are in the industry, it's so fast. There's so much opportunity now and so much more willingness of customers to get involved in it and corporates to get involved in high-tech innovation companies, because you are the innovation community. It's not necessarily the guys sitting on the 9th floor in a big HSBC building. Those guys are frustrated. You're already out here. You're ready to go. So I think that's a key part. Never have you had a great opportunity to have your plan and your journey de-risked by what is a free service. I mean, remember that. You won't find this anywhere else. Very hard to find, I guess, and we're going to try and protect it as much as we can. We are here to de-risk the whole thing. If we can de-risk it by 50% or 80%, what does that mean to you? That's what our primary goal is. And we'll get onto it in a minute, but the funding scene, I mean, Birmingham generally is still a long way behind London, and we've got a lot to catch up on, but you can feel it starting to change. There are more communities being grown up, and more of them are coming together and partnering with each other. And more angels are coming out of the woodwork, and my money or an investor's money goes 4 times further here than it does in London. So why wouldn't we, given the skill base? And the funding environment. So the government currently, I know we're in a Brexit. I think Brexit is a good thing. You think about the supply chain that's got to be self-sufficient now in the UK. That's a great opportunity for innovation and self-build and self-generation of solutions. But the government still support, some great funding vehicles, investment vehicles for startups, and the Americans just can't believe how good it is here, and we think it's just normal, but it's unbelievably healthy from the sort of the benefits for investment. So the stars are aligned. This is your moment. You've got to take it. Don't sit on your backsides. This is it, and there's no better place really to get very good value for money resources. In fact, so good it's free. But and the network, it's here. So you're in a good position, and grab the opportunity today, and don't wait, and get on with it.
Oh, Andy mentioned Brexit. What a brave man. The interesting thing about Brexit is not so much whether it's good or bad. A long debate about that. But the fact that things have to change, and change is always an opportunity for some people. So if you're old enough like me, you remember things like when microprocessors first came in, and people could code stuff differently, and various miniaturizations, things like that. Robotics came in and was meant to revolutionize. There's always a wave of things coming down. And actually, it's not about, I hate to say this to the tech people, it's not about the tech, actually. The tech is an enabler to solve some interesting problems, but things like AI, which everybody wants to talk about now, is a great way of solving some fairly difficult problems where, an intellectual room full of people find it difficult to solve, and yet using AI you can solve things in seconds or microseconds. So in terms of this year is in one sense no different to any other year. The UK is one of the best countries in the world for starting businesses, and always if you understand the customer, understand the market, and look for the opportunity, there will be problems to solve. In fact, I was talking to somebody today who's at the back, and he's worried about, he doesn't understand the tech, he doesn't know who to solve the tech. And I said, actually, the tech isn't the problem. You know the market, you know the problem, you know the things that aren't being done now, you know the business case for changing it. You can find someone to do the tech. There's a lot of people in this room who are very good at the tech. So actually, as long as you connect things together, the worst thing to do is to think about an idea for 3 years and then find out somebody else has done it. So doing it when you're ready to do it is the main important thing.
I'm just conscious of time. Have you got anything you really want to add, or can we move? Is it how good is what you're going to say, basically?
Just one quick point. It's not so much about the right time. It's the right place. I actually live in Oxfordshire. I don't live anywhere near here. I live 90 miles away. And the reason I come here to do mentoring and support is there is absolutely nothing in the Thames Valley like this. There's no ecosystem at all. You have to come here. So you guys are actually not only at the right time, you are at the right place. And I would capitalise on that.
Cool, thank you. So I'm going to open it to the floor. We've got a couple of mics roaming. So has anybody got any questions for any of these gentlemen? This is a really good opportunity. Just wait for the mic there. Don't waste it.
Hi, you mentioned about the funding in the region and that starts to grow. But could you just sort of expand a little bit about what that scene is like currently, and also the potential impacts on valuation?
The funding vehicles that, so apart from grants, so let's start with grants, which is the easy one. I mean, I'm still amazed by how many bodies are providing grants to startups, so, and I couldn't tell you all of them, so that's the first layer. There are lots of bodies giving out grants, and you should educate yourself on that as much as you can, and people like David know those organizations very well. The government investor schemes really are the two things, one called SCIS and one called EIS, which are called Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme and Enterprise Investment Scheme. They are tax efficient structures. There's probably nothing like it. In fact, if you look at London, most of the what I would call dumb money, which isn't offensive, but it's basically people who don't know anything about tech or fintech, but they've just been told by their financial advisors that they should invest in tech companies, are doing so because it's got such tax benefits. There's an interest on the government to make sure those people know what they're investing in, so they're always watching it. But those two mechanisms for very early startups, SCIS, and slightly bigger ones, EIS, educate yourself about that. If you don't know about those two things, you are going to put yourself at a massive disadvantage. They are the most important things to get your company certified and ready for investment from seed angels who can benefit from income tax and capital gains tax benefits. There was another half of your question beyond that. What was valuation? That's another long debate. If you're if you're a SaaS-based, I don't know whether this answers your question. If you're a SaaS-based company, you should be focusing on your multiple of your revenue, because we don't really care that much about how efficient you are. It's just the promise of how big you're going to be. Typically, most SaaS, based on 2016, is about a 4.8 of your annual, your ARR, your annual recurring revenue. But you can affect that massively, so we try and help. So I focus very much on the KPIs that affect that valuation. If you're a more mature company and more service-oriented, then you typically get a multiple on EBITDA, which is your earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization, which is more to do with the efficiency of your operation. So, but investors will take that as a base, and they'll use lots of other things. Total addressable marketplace, how good the team is, how good the management is, all sorts of things to do that. So we focus very much on, well, I do, I'm sure the other guys do, is tuning into that within the business plan, so you are maximizing those KPIs to maximize your valuation at every point of your fundraising, through the seed fundraising into series fundraising, which is when VCs get involved. The better you can prove you're on that trajectory of growth and control, the more you can defend your equity for the cash that you're getting in, which is incredibly important. And raising money is very distracting, so the better you're prepared for it, the less distracting it is, and you can get on with running your business. So I don't know if that answers your question. It's a big, valuation is a big topic, but I hope that gives you some insight.
I can say something about raising money. So my business, we raised almost £1.5 million, which is and we're based here, so in this region. It's not a huge amount of money in IT terms, but it's a lot of money in this region for what effectively was a games company. I didn't really have any problem raising money. The opportunity and the team and everything else looked really, really solid. We got some locally at the time. There were institutional funders at the time interested in early stage tech businesses. That's still the case, but for a couple of years now, they haven't had any funds to invest. That is, we are told, about to change. It's been about to change for about 6 months. But the word is that certainly from the end of this month, early next month, they're telling us there's new funds called the Midland Engines Investment Fund is being distributed to local institutions who will be looking for really good early stage technology businesses. I've personally raised money from them, and it was fantastic. I'm not particularly proud of this because it is a time sink raising money. I went through 11 fundraising rounds, successful fundraising rounds, in 5.5 years, which is probably a record. And almost all of that, apart from the institutions, was outside of the region. David and I are trying to change that at the moment. We're trying to build a high net worth investor network around the campus here, around Birmingham. It's going to take some time, but funding isn't an issue. Your problem will never be you can't get access to investment, because we can plug you into networks beyond the region who can get you that, but you need traction. That's the key.
Cool, thank you. Got any more questions? Oh, sorry, Alistair.
Could I just ask how many people in the room might be looking for investment in the next 18 months? Okay.
I think there's an interesting thing, just a very brief 2 points. One is, whenever we speak to people about investment, they always say, I'm looking for someone to invest in my company, when actually what they're trying to do is to sell part of their company. And if you take I'm trying to sell part of my company, as with a house or a car, you might want to polish it up and make sure it's well presented before you sell it. The second thing is, I don't think you can very rarely get investment for an idea. So however good your idea is, you need to do some pretty heavy lifting to actually prove that it's going to work. The turnaround I was involved in was venture capital funded, and I suddenly realized this 15 years ago, that venture capital companies, as with, to a certain extent, angels or less so, they don't want to take risks, which sounds very odd. But if you're in a venture capital company, you're invested in 5 or 6 medium risk companies, you know that 3 of them might fail. Therefore, the 2 have got to succeed, have got to be pretty good. So whenever you think about funding, think about making it look very good, proving that it's actually going to make them money, and minimizing their risk.
I've got one quick plug for something, actually, I've just remembered. So I sent details to some of you in the audience this already, who I know. This weekend's a deadline. If you think you're ready, you've got traction, and you do need to have a bit of traction for a digital business, then there's a high-quality angel network in London, meets once every quarter. They've got the next pitching session on the 8th of March, but the deadline for submission is this weekend. For historical reasons, it has to come through me. I don't earn anything from this, so but it's just a connection through my old business school. So if you are interested in that, then come and see me afterwards. So it's 8th of March, the pitching session. I'll be quarter from there. Yeah. And we've got our showcase here as well. Early April.
Early April.
As well.
Yeah, so anybody who just put their hand up saying you're looking to raise investment, if you're based on campus, again, let me or Abdul at the back or Cliff or David know, and we'll get you, we'll look to see whether you can pitch to on our investment day in April as well.
Actually, I'll extend that a little. Even if you're not based on campus, but you'd like to be based on campus,
okay.
We'll also talk to you about coming onto the investment program.
Cool. Right, have we got any more questions? Yeah.
You mentioned startups coming to you. Sometimes they're afraid to learn new things. For tech guys, what would you say is the biggest gap in their knowledge that they have, which is the first thing that they need to kind of target?
Are you a developer? Are you?
So I used to be a web developer, but currently studying at the moment, but looking to get back into startup scene and things like that. So,
I mean, there's different styles of people out there, and developers tend to be a bit more introverted, very, very focused, and not haphazard sales guys like Andy over here. So you tend to find that there are certain behavioural types that will fit particular roles. In a business, you would see your sales roles tend to be people that want to go out, want to engage with people, want to talk. Not always, but tends to be like that. So technologists tend to like to solve the problems. They get deep into the problems. They're not as much about going out, talking to the customers, understanding the needs, engaging with people. Not as confident with the negotiation and that side of stuff. So for me, it's the stuff that you'll probably makes you squirm in your seat when you think, I've got to go out and negotiate a deal, or even write up a deal or something like that. Those are the things that we'd be looking to support you with. But you'll be strong in the other stuff. And we get people here that understand the market but don't understand how to develop the product. And with them, we're trying to support them the other way. So,
I think also, though, the word team is important here. And actually doing it on your own is actually very difficult. You won't know. And actually, to pull a team together of 2 or 3 in that early days is an important asset. Most investors prefer to invest in a team than they will one individual. So certainly that's something to contemplate. And an equitable team that understands what they're all doing and going in the same direction, and then sit them with these guys, and then you'll get something, I think, that's much better than just coming in as one person with an idea.
Hi, a question in sales, building a sales force question. You sort of alluded to it before. It's a difficult thing to do. How is it finding a sales director who's not just going to go out and sell, but build?
Finding one.
finding someone who can not just sell but build a sales organization for your business?
Well, you know, one of the biggest problems you all will have, and apart from raising money, will be about recruitment. It still remains, I think it's a lot easier here for people have touched on it already, the 55,000 students, etc. So it's a major problem. You know, they're very peculiar people, salespeople. They're made up of two parts. One is an artistic side, which is the ability to talk to an accountant or a CEO and make them feel like you're competent and the salesperson cares. And the other part is a very logical part. So there's a process of putting deals through a process. So there's a profile of people. I mean, if I was searching for people, you always find somebody who's been systematically over quota, so they know how to win, and they're obviously typically motivated by money. But are you asking something specific?
Well, yeah. So finding the actual sales guys, that's one thing. But finding someone who can build that sales organization, like someone who knows how to recruit good salespeople, who puts in a good sales process.
Well, there's two sides to it. Typically, if they're the first guy you get in, you need them to be a hunter. So they've got to be very self-sufficient, a player manager. So they've got to be somebody to go out there and prove that they can close deals and do that before they can put a system in place before you start to recruit. And so typically, I've had people that have worked for big companies who come down to startups and they're very uncomfortable. They just don't get it without a big brand and a big infrastructure and lots of support and customers who want to see them because they work for IBM or whatever it is. So it takes a certain kind of animal to come down. And some people are basically willing to give up some of their salary for equity. You know, so you want people sometimes who've got maybe a bit of grey hair, but loads of hunger, who want to come down, as well as young people who have the capacity to hit the phones and build up to being a senior salesperson. So the first bit is the most important bit, really. If you're looking for a sales director who you want to become a right-hand or head of the management team, then they've got to have an awareness that it's a tough place. You know, you've got no support. You've got to go out and knock doors down and then build a process. And they've got to know, typically probably ex-sales directors or sales leads who know some way of managing a process and building a process and recruiting for it.
Have you hired those people? I mean, how do you go and get that level of person? Because it's not, we actually have a recruitment business. We offer for employers, but this is kind of as a startup, we're looking to find someone to build our sales team out. So for your other startups that you've worked with, how have you found that special blend of being a hunter and being able to actually do it themselves, but also build out the function?
I would say this, wouldn't I, is that one of the reasons why you select your investors as being smart investors or good angels that can help accelerate you on your trajectory is that you pick what they might be able to help you with. One of the things I can help with, because I've been in the software industry a long time, is a network of people at different levels who could fit that criteria, and who will be very interested in at their time of their life, or because they just want to change to join a startup that they're excited by. So that's the first thing. I'd go to try and make it cheap, because you don't want to go, not that I'm going to say recruiters charge a lot, but it is a lot, and not a lot of startups can afford that. So I think you use the network around you, including this facility here and the people who work here and the companies that are here that all got their connections, and that's where I would start from first. And then hopefully you'll match up. I've got a recruiter who actually invested in one of my companies, so they became an investor. They're trying to change their model of becoming an investor in software companies as well as a provider of high quality candidates.
I think you've probably put your finger on one of the most difficult problems. The startup I worked in the Netherlands spent about 5 years trying to get a good sales director. And the CTO at one point said that they wouldn't know a good sales director if he walked in through the door, because they got somebody who was a techie who did nothing but sit at a desk and plan. They got an ex-Oracle guy who got fired because he tried to bribe one of the tech team to put a feature in on a Friday and work over the weekend so he could sell it to a particular customer. So it is extremely difficult. I would actually go and look at your competitors, or people, if there are people doing something parallel, and look for the number two guy who's frustrated and would rather do something more innovative. But it's very, very difficult. So.
Have we got any, maybe one more from the floor, if we've got any? Okay, so I can smell pizza. So I'm just going to round this up with final question. If we can have maybe one from each of you. Leaving today, to anybody who's thinking about starting a business, top one bit of advice? Cliff, shall we start with you?
Sorry, my advice is get made redundant, so you've got a tax-free sum to start the business.
Better advice than that.
Advice: just get on with it. Don't think about it. Get on. Do.
I've got two. Get the simplest thing in front of a paying customer in the fastest time possible. Forget about everything else. And the second thing is be absolutely lazily analytical, anal if you like, about who you hire, your first hires. Test them for your own benefit and theirs.
For me, it's validate it with your potential customers. That's the most important thing. There's no point you being in the room if you're not going to sell it. So if you've got people who aren't your friends, go out and talk to them. And you can do it by concept. You don't need to have a product to show them. You just talk through the process. And if they fall off the chair, then you should be in here, because we'll make it happen or we'll make you successful.
3 words: focus, focus, focus.
Perfect, thank you. Can we have a round of applause for our panel, please? Thanks, guys. Thank you.